Good day, everybody, and welcome to Western NRG's Sombrero Brothers Studio for today's Network Uptime presentation. We thank you for joining us today to learn about how you can protect your network, your coworkers, and your business from lost productivity and lost dollars. If you have any questions today during the webinar, please be sure and enter them in the chat window, lower right-hand corner of your screen. We're going to get all those answered towards the end of our presentation. We go for 30 minutes. Joining me today to discuss this topic is my esteemed colleague, Zachary Smith. Zach, welcome to the studio.
Hi, Timothy. Great to be here with you today. Looking forward to taking a look at how our viewers can squeeze the most out of their networks.
I like it. So what exactly do you have for us today, Zach?
Here's what we're going to be taking a look at as we talk about maximizing network uptime. We're going to talk about redundancy, what it is, why it's good. We're going to look at a case study for what downtime looks like for an organization. Then we're going to look at sonic wall high availability specifically. We're going to talk about backup internet and how Team NRG can help our viewers out.
Okay, well, why don't we get started with the obvious. Why should our viewers today consider redundancy as a component of their networking plan?
It's a great question, and I'd say let's begin with the end in mind. From a productivity standpoint, as individuals who are responsible for the network, our job is to provide continuous, reliable connectivity so that people can get their jobs done. At the core of it, that is our responsibility. So designing and implementing redundant architecture removes single points of failure and enables you as the owner of that area to keep your organization running even if a single key connectivity component fails. Backup hardware and backup connectivity allow you to quickly and seamlessly continue business as usual until the issue that presented itself is resolved by troubleshooting and correcting on the back end.
Zach, I think everybody who's on the webinar this morning is in agreement with that being our mutual goal, but costs are often a barrier here, this type of environment. What's the story here?
Yeah, I absolutely hear that. Getting budget approval for these types of initiatives can be difficult. It often goes to a boss or a team of people to review, and they may not see the priority of network availability. I'd like to take a moment and equip our viewers with some info on how they can make these proposals. So allow me to paint a picture of what a downtime scenario would look like.
Yeah, please do.
So let's say we're talking about a business with 37 employees. This puts them right in line for a SonicWall TZ500 appliance. Let's estimate they're doing $8 million a year in annual revenue. There's 260 working days in a year. That equates to about just shy of $31,000 per working day. So per business hour, we're talking about $3,800 of revenue coming in the door on average. So that's what we're looking at. So if that's the story I'm working with, my question is, so what's it going to cost me to protect this business? And a high availability redundant setup for TZ500 looks like this. You get a high availability appliance and the license. You get a switch for the high availability setup. You have our team of engineers configure the whole thing for you. That puts you at a total cost of just shy of $2,500. If we break that down and amortize it over 5 years, which is a typical lifespan, you're going to be at just shy of $500 per year. If you move it down to the day, it's $1.88, and if you move it down to the hour, it's less than a quarter. So the comparison here, pretty straightforward in terms of here's how much I'm doing and what I'm protecting against, and here's how much it costs.
That's a very compelling story, Zach. In fact, what I'm seeing here is if I went down for even an hour, it was a push, and if I was down for any more than an hour, I'm way ahead of the game.
Yeah, imagine if you're down for a couple hours, or Lord forbid a whole day even, that how much that would set you back. So the comparison here, pretty compelling. And it comes down to thousands of lost revenue versus 24 cents for some redundant hardware setup.
So you're not even talking about payroll costs here. You're not only are you talking about not bringing in revenue, but you're also wasting all the payroll while employees can't be productive.
Yeah, it's true. So if you're talking to a decision maker, you're saying not only are we not transacting business because our network isn't up, but we're also, people are sitting at their desks and they can't be productive because they can't access the resources they need to.
37 people in this story.
Yeah, so that the cost there, you're talking thousands of dollars in addition. So really, really not great. And this is just the economic component. This is the dollars and cents of downtime. But we all know that there's a human component to this as well. When the network is down and everyone is scrambling, and they're staring right at you, that's a bad day if you're in charge of that area of the business. A redundant solution is a smooth way to keep business running as usual while you troubleshoot and resolve the problem in the background. This lets people keep working business as usual. You get a notification because there's a blip, but you can look into it. While they continue working, you can resolve the problem transparent to the end user.
It sounds a lot better than 36 people hovering over my shoulder while I try and figure things out.
Yeah, amen to that.
So let's talk about the Sonic Wall high availability solution. What can you tell me?
Yeah, at the basic level, the Sonic Wall high availability feature, HA for short, by the way, if I say that, HA is high availability, it allows for 2 Sonic Walls identical to be configured for reliable and continuous network connectivity. The way it works is, in the event of a hardware failure, the secondary Sonic Wall appliance will assume the role of primary and will begin passing all network traffic. So network users will continue to work from their computers as normal. They won't have to change any settings, but their network traffic, instead of being handled by the primary Sonic Wall appliance, will now be handed off to this secondary HA high availability Sonic Wall appliance, and they'll continue working as normal.
Can you show us some examples about how this high availability is actually implemented?
Yeah, absolutely. So here is an example of high availability implemented with one internet service provider. So this is a very common deployment we encounter. On the right-hand side, we see the internet and your internet service provider delivering internet to your location. This goes into DMZ switch specifically for an HA setup, and then from that switch it gets delivered to both your primary and your secondary HA Sonic Wall appliance, and then out to your network for all your users. Here's another example. If you were going to get even more redundant, this is an example of high availability implemented with 2 internet service providers. So even if one ISP connection goes down, the other connection will pick right up and begin sending and receiving internet traffic for the organization.
So this is really helpful for me because not only is there an outside chance that my hardware for some reason could fail and now I've got a backup appliance, the high availability unit you've been talking about, but probably more often is the case that my internet service provider fails. So now you're showing me a redundant ISP solution as well. So in both of these diagrams, I picked up that you've got a switch there on the outside. What's that all about?
Yeah, great call out. This is called the DMZ switch. It acts as an intermediary between the WAN, the wide area network or internet, and the Sonic Wall. So it's required for a high availability setup. The switch allows each Sonic Wall to connect to the internet independently if the other one goes down. Normally, you'd just connect your internet to your one Sonic Wall and you'd be set. But if you did that in a high availability scenario and the second Sonic Wall needs to start working, it needs to be connected to your ISP modem. And so that is what this DMZ switch facilitates.
Okay, so in other words, this product allows things to happen seamlessly, whereas if I didn't have this, I would be running into my wiring closet and switching the cable from primary firewall to secondary firewall and so on.
Exactly. Yeah. This sort of duplicates that connection and allows everything to flow. Yeah. If you want to run in, you can totally go run in and unplug and replug, but that's not going to be seamless. This is what allows it to be seamless.
Copy. So in your case study earlier, I saw that you listed a license for the high availability. What is that license for? What does it do?
Yeah, that was the stateful sync high availability license. Stateful sync licensing enables the synchronization of the state tables between the primary and the secondary SonicWall appliances. If a failover event occurs, user sessions won't be interrupted. So this is sort of, not just am I going to, start moving traffic on another road, but I'm going to move all of the cars and everything's going to be in the same spot when traffic starts going through that second sonic wall.
So are you saying if I'm a user and I'm online and I'm in the middle of some kind of web session, let's say it's a web application that I'm using that's in the cloud, Salesforce or something like that,
Yeah.
and my firewall dies, this second firewall kicks in seamlessly and I don't skip a beat.
Exactly.
I don't have to log out and log back in and so on and so forth.
Right. It's going to keep that session totally synced. So again, we're talking about being transparent to people who are doing work. Nothing's going to change. They're not going to have to log out, log back in, waste time there. It's just going to be totally smooth sailing to the second sonic wall.
So as a user in this network, I won't even know that this event has even happened.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. So we talked about a few things now. Can you kind of just ball it together and give me a recap of high availability?
Yeah, absolutely. So here are the components of high availability top to bottom. The first thing is high availability appliance. So this is an identical piece of SonicWall hardware that's going to handle traffic if anything happens to the primary appliance. Second component is that stateful sync license key, allowing simple, seamless transition, syncing that state table is the technical term for it, between both appliances continuously, so that once a heartbeat drops from the primary appliance, the secondary appliance is ready to go with a synced, up-to-date state table. Third component, DMZ switch, so that allows connection to the internet from both sonic walls independent of the other. And then the last component is configuring it and putting it all together. Our team has a lot of experience doing this. What we do for our customers is we get all that hardware. We also provide all the cabling, and we'll put neat little labels on every single cable. That way what's supposed to go where is really simple when you're looking at this setup in a real life environment. So yeah, making sure it's configured properly is super important as well.
Great stuff. Thank you for all of that. Now, let's get back to something that I kind of called out earlier. You showed me a diagram with two internet service providers, and I want to know more about that whole story. And what do you have for me here?
Absolutely. Internet connectivity is certainly a crucial component of getting things done. We all get that. These days, the number of devices that we're using is more than ever before. More of what we do is being done over the internet. And so therefore the equation sort of becomes, if you want to be productive, that relies a lot on your connectivity. Just to give a real world example, on the average desk in an office today, you might find certainly a workstation, somebody's computer. They might have a webcam for audio and video conferencing. They might have a VoIP phone on their desk to do voice over IP telephone calls. They might have a laptop for when they're on the go. Might have a mobile device, so maybe they have an iPhone or a Samsung or Android phone. They might have a tablet. So there's potentially a half dozen different devices that are all using network connectivity. So the reason that this connectivity is important is because it's become so integrated into how our organizations get things done.
That's a good call out. Just naming those devices causes me to go, man, whether it's wired or wireless, everything is on the network.
Yeah.
So how does the configuration in the sonic wall work for this?
Yeah, great question. So the sonic wall will use the secondary internet connection to route traffic over it if there's an issue with the primary connection. You can also configure, the sonic wall to use this secondary connection all the time, using it to equalize internet load between multiple connections. So, you could say, I want the second internet connection to start using it if anything bad happens, but we can also just start using it every day, and that way it's always being utilized, and we're sort of, balancing our network traffic among two different internet connections.
So I guess I have some choices here. If I wanted to buy a secondary internet connection, my primary may be a jumbo circuit at a jumbo price.
Yeah.
I don't know that I want to pay 2 times cost for that internet. Can I buy a low-cost cable service similar to what I have at home for 75 bucks a month or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a very common choice because yeah, you're not looking to double your cost to secure this kind of uptime. There are more reasonable, certainly not as robust. You wouldn't want to continuously run your business on this lighter connection, but it's a great thing to have in place for, if this type of event happens, you have something you can work with to keep business moving while you troubleshoot whatever's going on with the first one.
What if I really am in the other ball game where hey, the budget is not my limiting factor here, and I would like to get another mega circuit and have 2 of them. I want 2 mega circuits. Did I hear you right a minute ago when you say you have a way of balancing my load across multiple circuits?
Absolutely. There's a number of different mechanisms you can use in terms of round robin, send this connection here or here, or types of traffic, or different connections you're making out to the internet. So there's there's a different variety of utilizations of using both, but you can absolutely be using both those internet connections 24/7 so that you're getting your money worth of it, but you're also not saturating one or the other. You have a really even distribution of your traffic.
I really like the sound of that. So probably everybody who's been in the networking story or dependent on the internet for any number of years, we all have had the experience where the internet service provider has failed. They changed my IPs. It's super slow today. Somebody in the neighborhood has doing construction and dug up the circuit, and everybody's gone down when it comes to the internet. Can you tell me more about just like what do those connections really look like from the ISP to my actual building?
Yeah, that's a great question. Let's look at a basic telecom route. So if we start on the left-hand side, we see our office. This is where I'm sitting in and doing work for my workstation. So I'm eventually cabled back to what's referred to as the DMARC. This is the line of demarcation, as it were, where the internet service provider is delivering the internet to. Now, this is typically in a closet in the back of the building somewhere, in a multi-tenant situation where there's lots of office suites. This will be in a room somewhere in the building where the internet service provider, Comcast or Verizon, is delivering internet right there. Back from there, it goes to a local point of presence, or POP for short, and that's where the internet service provider is delivering internet on a local level. There may be some, 1 or 2 more intermediaries, but that's the big one is the POP. And from there, it goes back to the internet service provider's backbone. So this is their huge set of infrastructure, which is connecting all of their customers to the worldwide internet. So this is what the route looks like. So there's a couple different points in here where something could be changed or something could be bottlenecked or causing slowness. And so this is what the route looks like if you zoom out.
Thank you. So I've heard about some different internet connections the last time I was shopping for a circuit, and there was a price differentiator too. Now, some of these circuits were referred to as dedicated and others as shared. So what's the skinny on that?
Yeah, so good question. Dedicated service is just that. It's guaranteed speed that you're going to have available to just you 24/7. The carrier is contractually agreeing to provide that speed to you. With a shared circuit, it's sort of a different story. You're typically, like you said, there's different costs associated with a shared circuit versus a dedicated one. So there's less cost, so it's more appealing from that standpoint. But you're no longer guaranteed that speed. If you look in the contract, it speeds up to, quote. So that means your cost is going to be less, but you're also sharing that, this pipe with all the other people in the business park or in that neighborhood, for example. A great example would be if you ever tried watching Netflix at home at around 6:30 p.m. That's when everybody else is trying to do it too. So they're all pushing and pulling tons of traffic over the internet connection. And if you ran a speed test at that time, you'd see you're getting a lot less speed than your quoted speed because that's peak usage hours. That's the same for business. Right now in the business park we're in, everyone here is sending emails, viewing web pages, having VoIP phone conversations, doing video chats, all that stuff, they're using their internet too. So if I had a shared connection, everyone else would be pulling from it as well. So that's the differentiation between a dedicated just for you circuit and a shared circuit.
It seems like anybody in business, certainly the example of 37 people and $3,800 an hour, there's no question that it should be a dedicated story.
Yeah, it's a great way to guarantee continuity. And maybe let's move this down to to another example. Let's say I have a gym, and I got all the equipment I want. I got a treadmill. Sometimes I want to do elliptical. Maybe there's a stair stepper. I want to have some weight machines. I certainly want a weight rack with some stuff. And then I got a bench and a bar. So I got all that stuff. And if it's just for me, that's great. And I can use whatever I want, whatever quantity I want, no matter what. It's guaranteed to me. But if we look at a typical sports club example, there's dozens or maybe even hundreds of other folks who are signed up for access to this. So it's the same type of story with this internet connection. Instead of just for you, you can use as much as you want, however, whenever you want. If you go during peak hours and all the treadmills are taken, then that's just what it is. They're not guaranteeing you a treadmill when you sign up for the sports club. They're guaranteeing you access, and it depends when you come. So it's totally dependent on those type of things. So this is fun example.
Yeah, that ties right back into your Netflix story at home, right? When everybody's at the gym or when everybody's watching TV, it's a big shared event, and no wonder it's $49 a month.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of costs, what are the options and costs for getting a backup internet circuit as far as you and Western NRG are concerned?
Yeah, that is a great question, and the answer is extremely specific. So based on your particular address, where internet will be physically delivered, that is going to be the dominant factor in how much options are going to look like for you. Western Energy has extensive experience researching, preparing options for review, finally executing when you've made a decision, and then coordinating circuit upgrades. So if you have an existing circuit that needs to be upgraded, if you want to get an additional circuit as a backup circuit or to augment your existing service, or if you're planning for a new location or something like that, our team has a lot of experience in looking at the options, because there can be lots if that's something you're interested in.
So am I hearing you correctly? You're not just telling me go get a secondary internet service connection. You're telling me Team NRG can help me with options?
Yes, sir. Yeah, Western Energy has extensive quoting experience. We have relationships with a connectivity broker, so an organization that's relationships with dozens, even it's hundreds of internet service providers, and we also have relationships with several individual carriers. So we have contacts there, which really helps. I want to see the options. That really helps us get a lot of options available for you, so you can make an informed decision.
So no matter where I am, basically your patch is North America, you can help me get a secondary internet circuit.
Absolutely.
And you're giving me options and pricing and so on.
Yeah. It's not something you just want to sort of go out and take the first thing that comes to you. You want to see what it looks like, different speeds, different pricing, different commitments, stuff like that.
And you have experience in managing and coordinating that whole story from where you sit in Southern California.
We have those relationships going, and further, not just the quotes, but we want to have people to talk to about, okay, what are my options here? But also when it comes time to make a decision and actually turn up the circuit and have it available for use, okay, so I need to have my SonicWall configured to accept this. There's going to be a certain date when a gentleman from Verizon is going to come out and connect this for me. We have project management for coordinating all those activities to make sure that it all happens at the same time and becomes really smooth delivery for your company.
That kind of makes sense. If I'm going to be relying on you for my SonicWall, for my support, for my configuration, and this carrier story is obviously a weak link in the picture, and you know about that because you ordered it for me and orchestrated it, well, then you're going to be able to help me with that too, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't just stop there in terms of us putting this in the first time. If you are a Western NRG urgent care customer, our team will troubleshoot circuit slowness, troubleshoot if your circuit goes down. So we're going to go to bat for you on anything ISP related. we're even going to ask you to sign a letter of authorization, and this is going to mean that we can call your ISP, I can call Verizon as if I was someone from Joe's Tire and say, Joe wants me to troubleshoot this internet circuit issue for him. And what this means for Joe at Joe's Tire is he's not going to be wasting any more time, spending minutes or hours on hold talking to a technician. None of that. And he's not going to experience the vendor finger pointing that certainly we've all experienced, where the Verizon technician is going to say, oh, the circuit loops back fine. It's definitely something wrong with your firewall that you got there. Have a nice day. And you're going to call your support vendor, and they say, well, these are really reliable pieces of hardware. They don't just change. Everything's great with it. So you're going to be stuck in the middle as the customer. You don't understand a lot of the terms. There's a lot of specific telecom and security terms, and so what that equation equals is just a lot of frustration. But if you have urgent care, you call Western NRG and you say, it's really slow today. I don't know what's going on. We will take it from there. We will call the ISP for you. We know all the terms. We know how to, the fastest way to get a successful resolution. And then we'll report back to you at the end and let you know what happened and that you're all set and on your way.
That's huge, Zach. And I've never even heard of that before, because in most cases you call the manufacturer and say, my gizmo's broken, and they say, no, the hardware looks fine, the green light is on, you better call Verizon or whoever your ISP is. And here we go on a goose chase, like you just explained. So yeah. Let me just get it straight. With Western NRG and this urgent care story you're telling me, you are the only person that I'm calling. One phone number, one call does it all.
Yep, absolutely. One number to call, we got you covered.
Fantastic. Well, Zach, we're almost at the end of our time, and we do have a few questions that came in, so let's go ahead and get to those. You ready?
Absolutely. I love this part.
Okay. Our first question comes from Jessica. Hello, Jessica. And she asks, do I need CGSS on the second appliance as well as the first one?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So let's break that down first. So CGSS, that is the Comprehensive Gateway Security Suite. That's a renewable license on the SonicWall. That's the brains of the security operation. If you have a SonicWall, you absolutely must have CGSS license for it to be doing its job right. So all of our customers, we talk to about that and make sure that they're up to date on that licensing. So Jessica's question is, do I need to purchase a second set of this licensing?
Exactly, for the second unit.
Yeah, so the answer is absolutely not. If you have it active and licensed on the primary SonicWall appliance, when you hook up the HA appliance, it will be using that same subscription that you've already purchased and licensed to your primary SonicWall.
So just as a quick add-on to Jessica's question, this one comes from me. So let's say an incident happens and the first box dies. I've got this whole suite of security on there. You're just telling me it moves to the backup, the HA appliance, and I'm good to go. No one in the building even knew what happened except for perhaps the administrator and you guys at NRG.
Yep.
Now do I call you and say, hey, this event has occurred and you can overnight me a new primary unit and you're going to help me put that back online so that we kind of start over again next week?
That's exactly how it's going to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Really seamless.
Our next question comes from Marcus. And Marcus asks, if I get a backup internet circuit, can I use it at the same time as my first circuit?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you already have, let's say a 50 by 50 circuit today, and you want to get, a backup internet 25 by 25, let's just say, for ease of use, you can absolutely set those up to be used at the same time. Both of them are going to be processing traffic. The SonicWall it's really great options available for using both. So Marcus, absolutely, both circuits can be used. You're not just putting one out there that will never get any use.
Okay, Zach, I think we got time for one more question.
All right.
This one comes in from Roger, and Roger asks, what would a SonicWall high availability setup look like if I was hosting public-facing resources such as a website or e-commerce platform?
Yeah, that is a great question. Let me see if I can grab a diagram for this so that I can sort of illustrate that. Give me a second. Okay. So here's the diagrams, kind of similar to what we were looking at earlier, we got the internet on the right-hand side, the DMZ switch, our high availability cluster. In the upper right corner, we see these publicly available resources. So you might have, you said, I think Roger said website or e-commerce. We have some customers in the financial sector who are doing some online banking that they're hosting. So these types of resources, super important for you as the network administrator to make sure are available to external customers. So these will connect to that DMZ switch to make sure that both sonic walls, the primary and the secondary, can both pass traffic to and from those publicly available resources.
Man, so there's a lot of wires in this diagram, Zach, but if I'm reading it correctly, every cable that goes to the primary unit has a duplicate unit and a duplicate cable.
Yep.
I guess that's really the definition of redundancy and high availability.
Yeah, that's the name of the game. You're making sure that everything here has a route to the secondary option, and that's what lets everything everything work as normal if something happens with one of them.
Let me just play the tape out loud and see if I'm tracking here. So if I have an e-commerce store, people are coming to my site to buy products and services online, putting them in the shopping cart, buy now, etc.
Yep.
And my internet service provider goes down. That still happens on the secondary internet service provider.
Yep.
And what if my firewall goes down? Now that can still happen on the secondary or HA firewall.
Exactly.
So no matter where the failure is, you've seemingly got me covered here.
Yeah. There'll still be a connection for internal users and external public users to access the resources they need to through a different means of connection.
You should probably call Amazon and tell them you've got a solution. We are about out of time, Zachary. Thank you as always for being here. I always learn a ton from you. Great questions from our audience, and if we didn't get a chance to get to your question, please go ahead and ask after the fact, and we'll follow up with you by telephone or email. Thanks everyone for joining us. This is Timothy at Western NRG, wishing you a happy and blessed day.